Hello friends, this video on Morphology of Flowering Plants Part 28 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Let us now talk about the next one of the very important parts of a plant, that is fruit. Now I don't think that I need to explain a lot about fruit. We all know fruits, we all eat different varieties of fruits. But still, let us see what exactly is a fruit and how is a fruit formed. So fruit is nothing but the ripened ovary after fertilization. Now, the process of sexual reproduction in plants, we all are aware of that process, right? What happens in that? It is a stepwise process. The first step is pollination, where the pollen grains will reach the ovary through the stigma and style, and then inside the ovary fusion will happen between the male gametes and the female gamete. Female gamete, that is egg, and male gamete, that is pollen grains. Now after that fusion happens, a zygote is formed, right? So now after this process of fertilization is over, now what will happen to that ovary? Now eventually that ovary will turn into a fruit and the ovule will turn into a seed. Now, in case you want to know about the process of sexual reproduction in plants in more detail, you can refer the videos on reproduction in plants of class 10th. Okay, so now let us see what happens. Now, this is your plant. You can see the flower, you can see the leaves. Now, if you look deeper into a flower, what do you see? Inside the flower you have the ovary. So this is the ovary. Now when the process of fertilization take place, when the fusion happens, post fusion, now again if you look deep inside the ovary, this is how it looks like, right? So now this ovary, here what you can see, this is the stigma, this is the style, and this is the ovary. Now after fertilization what happens? This becomes the ovary and this is the seed. That is, the ovary becomes like this, the ovary gets ripened and the ovule turns into the seed. So this ripened ovary is nothing but the fruit. So here I have taken the example of a pomegranate plant. So in a pomegranate plant you can actually see the fruit which we see, which looks somewhat like this. This is the fruit, that is, this is the ripened ovary. And what happens to the ovule? This is the ovule, right? And these ovules are nothing but they turn into seeds. So these are the seeds inside. So if you see a pomegranate, inside you see seeds, right? So this is a fruit. So fruit is nothing but the ripened ovary after fertilization. Now talking about examples of fruit, we have variety of examples: mango, apple, berry, pea, wheat, maize, bean, cotton, lily. There are so many examples of fruits. So let us now look at the structure of a fruit. Now every fruit has a wall which is known as pericarp. So pericarp is the wall of the fruit. Now this pericarp itself is again divided into different layers. Exocarp, which is the outermost layer of the epidermal cells. Exo anyways means external. So the most external layer, that is the outermost layer of epidermal cells, that is exocarp, which is also known as epicarp. Next is mesocarp. Meso means middle. So the layer which is present in the middle. So middle layer of cells with varying thickness, that is mesocarp, and the last one is endocarp. Endo means inside. So the innermost layer of cells with varying structure and thickness. So basically pericarp, that is the wall of the fruit, in itself is made up of three walls: outermost exocarp, middle mesocarp, and innermost endocarp. So these are the three walls of any fruit. Now when I talk about any fruit, here let us take the example of apple. So here you can see the apple. So where do you see the exocarp? See the outermost layer, this green layer which you see, that is the exocarp. The next middle layer is the mesocarp, and then this innermost layer is the endocarp. Now let us talk about the edible parts of different fruits. Now in different fruits we actually eat eat different parts. In some fruit, we do not eat the seeds because the seeds are not edible. So we eat the mesocarp. In some fruits, we eat the endocarp. So in different fruits, different parts are edible. So let us look at some of the edible parts of different fruits. So first let us talk about apple. Okay, so if you talk about apple, in apple the edible part is nothing but the swollen thalamus. Now you might be surprised to know that because it doesn't look like that. This entire thing looks like a fruit. But what is this fruit, you know? It is nothing but a part of the thalamus. We already talked about thalamus, that what is thalamus. So in a flower, so where fruit comes from the ovary, and where is ovary? Ovary is in the flower. So in an apple plant, if you look at an apple flower, so in that flower there will be a stalk like structure. So that upper portion of the stalk is very much swollen, and later that swollen part of the thalamus becomes this apple which we eat. So swollen thalamus is the edible part of apple. If we talk about banana, so the edible part is the fruit, that is the ovary. So again in banana you can actually see this entire fruit is nothing but the ovary. So the ovary becomes this entire fruit, and in this fruit inside you can see seeds. However, these days seedless bananas are also available, but in otherwise you can see small black dot like structure. So they are nothing but the seeds of the banana fruit. So here again, if you talk about exocarp, endocarp and mesocarp, you can differentiate them. The outermost will be exocarp, the middlemost will be mesocarp, and the innermost will be endocarp. So this is true for all the fruits. Talking about mango, again in mango, which is the edible part? So this outermost layer which we generally peel off when we eat mango, that is the exocarp. The middlemost layer which is fleshy, which we actually eat, that is the mesocarp, and the innermost layer, that is the endocarp, and inside that is the seed, which is very hard and which we actually throw off. So the layer just outside the seed is the endocarp. The fleshy layer which we eat is mesocarp. So here in this case, the edible part is mesocarp. Talking about coconut, so in coconut the edible part is the endosperm. So see, these are not new terms. You would have studied about all these while we discussed about sexual reproduction in plants. So what is endosperm? Now when sexual reproduction happens, there is double fertilization in case of flowering plants. That is, the two fusion takes place. One fusion between the pollen grains and the egg. The other fusion is between the pollen grains and the pollen nuclei. Now, pollen grains plus pollen nuclei give rise to endosperm. So, endosperm is nothing but the one which provides nutrition or which provides food to the newly formed zygote post-fertilization. So, in coconut, the edible part or the part which we eat is the endosperm. Again, in case of orange, if you talk about the edible part, so again, if you look at the orange, so what are the different layers of pericarp? This outermost layer which we peel off is again exocarp. This layer, the secondmost layer is the mesocarp, and the innermost layer is the endocarp. So basically these three layers, exo, endo and mesocarp, are seen in all the fruits, but different fruits have different edible parts. In some mesocarp is edible, in some the entire ovary is edible, in some the leaves are edible, fruits are edible, so it differs from fruit to fruit. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.